Welcome to close to the final episode of Top Quartile for 2022. I'm your host, Dan Marks, the president at Fusion, and it's so great to talk to so many great people this year. Hope you found it useful and encouraging in your business. And so today we're doing the first part of a two-part series where we're doing a roundtable with some of our guests from this year that came back on the show to give you their perspectives on some key lessons learned in 2022. The impact it had on them, and sharing that information like we do to help the community. So first up, Kim.
Key takeaway I saw in 2022 was the elevated power of empathy and gratitude in the boardroom. I know this may sound a little basic or just basic common sense, but I saw a marked shift in the power and importance placed on empathy and gratitude post-COVID as everyone was trying to figure out what is the new normal. And for those of you who don't know me, I sit on a board of a community bank as well as a number of other public and private boards. So my perspective comes from that lens, that is from what I see in the boardroom. And I've personally spent a lot of time reflecting on why I'm seeing this thematically across a number of different boards. I've been trying to define it and label it, and why I'm seeing such a notable difference in 2022 from the past and other years. And I actually think a lot has to do with the emotional toll that COVID left on everyone. I think that's a major factor in why it's so impactful now. Connections and people matter in a different way, and that means it matters to the bank's customers differently as well. It's no longer okay just to say thank you and we appreciate your business. It's gone to, and it has to go to another level with a deeper understanding and a deeper level of gratitude for who that bank customer is and for what actually matters to them. And strong boards understand this and know that tone at the top matters. If we are not valuing and elevating the gratitude and empathy and exercising that behavior in the boardroom, then how is that trickling down, and how are we supposed to see it in our leaders? And most importantly, if this is what our customers are feeling, then it's critical to our success. And it's most important with those who are touching the customers, those who are face to face with our customers every day. I tend to be a glass half full kind of person. So I truly hope this behavioral shift that I've seen in folks in 2022 is definitely something that will continue on into 2023, because I think it's massively impactful in a positive way to our business, and definitely appreciated by our customers.
Kim, well said. Gratitude and putting yourself in the customer, the employee mindset is so critical. So thanks so much, Rick.
Well, I think the key theme again this year has been resiliency, like it has the last couple of years, fighting through all the craziness and extra responsibilities and sorrow associated with COVID, and then managing through that and managing into a different environment. And this year things were moving along at a certain pace in a certain way, and we saw some radical changes in the macro market with interest rates moving so very, very, very quickly. And, we've had, again, folks just, that resiliency factor of, okay, we've got to buckle down. We've got to take on a whole new set of challenges. And it just never seems to really stop for a simple industry like banking. There's always tons of excitement.
All right. Thanks so much, Rick. Douglas, welcome back to the show.
So lesson learned, a book read, actually, I speak a little bit to both. One on lesson learned is the persistence of inflation, that it has been something that obviously the Federal Reserve and our dual mandate that we're looking, very strongly at, and want to make sure that we keep stable prices and also maximum sustainable employment. But when it comes to books, a very, well correlated one is the Beige Book. And I read that on a regular basis. Anybody that's involved in the economy, I would say, read that as well. And you can see in there comments, because what it does is it provides, and it's a lot of my job, it provides us anecdotal information in addition to statistical information. And the anecdotal information is usually a point in time and looking forward. So you get a sense of, what's happening in the future. So, looking at comments it's interesting to go back in time and look at comments of things that were said, about 6 months or so ago, or, a little bit shorter, and you get a sense of, some of what's happening now. Two, I'll pull out and look at for the Memphis zone is in July, food service firms were looking at, shortage of key supplies, couldn't get cups, couldn't get utensils, and, but consumer demand was staying strong. And then that went into August, you see in the beige book there, where they start to reduce portion sizes. So if I'm sure people thought they were just getting better on the diets, but food service firms, at least in the Memphis zone, are starting to reduce those portion sizes because you're starting to see that inflation, how much you're paying for food and also paying for utensils and the like. So being able to see that come through in the anecdotal evidence, especially seeing it early, is something that we look at here at the Fed, in addition to a number of things. Obviously, we're measuring inflation. We're looking at inflation measures like CPI and PCE, and even though those strip out food, the core PCE strips out food and fuel. It gives us a good sense because, monetary policy operates on a lag. So this gives us a little look into the future of what's going to be happening.
All right. Thanks so much, Douglas. And Janelle?
One of the books that I really enjoyed reading this past year was Fearless Leadership. It's by Carrie Lorenz. And what's great about it is she was one of the first female F-14 firefighters. And what she really talks about are, entryways into leadership and how important, things like courage are to push the boundaries and try something new that's never been done. But the other thing that she really highlights that I thought was excellent in the book were, planning and preparing for your team. And I think just in this day and age, we're starting to move faster and faster, and we're trying new things and testing new things or launching new things, and really, making sure you pause and take the time to prepare your team, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem, especially when you're on a firefighter, you really need to be all buttoned up and the team needs to be fully buttoned up. So that was the example she gave, but I took it to heart because I think we're moving so fast that sometimes we forget to pause and make sure that everyone's understanding and along the journey with us. So I thought it was a really great book, fun read as well. So that's one thing that I took away from this year.
Yeah, spot on, Janelle. In an environment that is more uncertain, it becomes critical to have that insight and have data drive your decisions. So thanks for that. Jeff?
I guess lessons learned in 2022 is it's a dangerous question. We all learned a lot of stuff. But I've really been thinking about a lot. I read a book on Amazon actually called Working Backwards, which really talked a lot about the way they execute, the way they structure the company and think about goals and metrics in aligning teams. And I feel like particularly in challenging market environments, it's very helpful for companies to be able to focus on how you operate better, how you execute better, how you kind of get the machine better oiled, so to speak. And so I've been thinking a lot about it and working internal to our company. How do we think about aligning teams, getting incentives set up right, measuring, kind of increasing the speed and a capability around execution that we have. And I feel like that's an area I've learned a lot and something that's really interesting to focus on, particularly in challenging environments, because those are moments when growth can be hard, but there's always operational efficiencies, execution capabilities to improve. That's an area I've been thinking and learning a lot about this year.
Very well said. There's always more to learn and executing more efficiently, focusing on the things that are drive real productivity and ignoring the things that are maybe less productive is especially important in times of economic weakness. So very well said. Next up.
The beauty of marketing, and one of the things that I love and why I've been in the industry for 15 years is that there's always learnings. And if you're not learning things each year, that's probably a bigger problem. But of the many, I think there's been a few things. One that's probably a continual learning, and I've talked about before, but is that what worked last year, what worked this year may not necessarily be the thing that works the same next year or brings the same results. We need to be continually adapting and adjusting to things as new things come out. One of the specifics for this year for us has been a learning around NIL agreements with athletes at the collegiate level. And we've experimented with that a little bit, and we've had some learnings with some athletes. We've done a little bit as that was new, and this year we've gotten into that a little more. As Mountain America is our marketing, we've done all types of things with social influencers and run certain campaigns. And this year was the NIL side of that was new to us. What we found, probably a learning, an important part of that was not just an agreement with the player and, hey, endorse us or show up on our commercial, but what we did with our players is we got to know a little bit about what they were interested in the community as well, and then supported those things and invited them to be part of that with us. So there's a player at BYU that we worked with, and he has an interest with the Polynesian community in Utah, and so we were able to do a financial education piece with that community in Provo, near where his university is and where he lives, and it was tremendous success, and we got a lot of great feedback from that, as well as with these players. We've kind of done some financial education with them, and allowed them to explore some of the offerings that we have as a credit union and what they can be part of. And then not only have we found them endorsing that through our paid agreements with them to, with us on social media and other things, but we find them talking about how much they've enjoyed working with the credit union just on their own, and what a great part that partnership has been. Just like we've had with some other social influencers in the past, where we've seen some similar things. So that's been a great learning. I think we've had some with some players where we just had them show up to an event or be on a radio ad or whatever it might be. And those are fine, and that worked. But the ones where we've been a little more involved with them, has been one of our really great learnings for this year.
Yeah, Gentry, great lesson learned in terms of understanding partnerships and really thinking about where do you have affinity, and also how can you give back through financial education and those kind of things. So fantastic insight as always. Tim?
Yeah, I think 2022, if I had to say one word, I would say agility, the value of agility, flexibility, being able to adjust to changing conditions, unforeseen changes. Virtually all of our clients coming into 2022 were still very focused on growing loans because they were very liquid, with excess deposits from the residue of the federal stimulus out of the pandemic. That has shifted so rapidly, it's caught a lot of folks by surprise. So we have many clients that were looking for every loan they could get in the first quarter, who are now looking for every deposit they can get. Obviously, when Fed funds has gone up as aggressively as it has in this period, it's truly unprecedented from a historical perspective. But the shift is like driving a car 50 miles an hour and throwing it into reverse. It's disconcerting. It's difficult to get our hands around how to react to it. The odds of making mistakes are very high. On the other hand, the odds of, to use the language of the day, to having a soft landing, very, very difficult to pull off, which makes, the discipline of data-driven decision-making and analytics more important than it's ever been.
Yeah, Tim, so very well said. Agility is always a great discipline. It really shows its real value in times of, dynamic uncertainty, needing to adjust plans based on real information, and certainly in an era of, very rapid interest rate environments, and probably a great foundation even for next year. So thanks for that insight. Sean?
As you think about 2022, for us, it was actually a very good year. It started very, very strong. The economy obviously was super hot. We got way ahead of budget early in the year. And then what has happened is later in the year, these significant increases in interest rates have started things to slow. So both in mortgage, as well as we do quite a bit of home building lending, and so it has caused that to slow down some. Business lending still seems to be robust, but I would say it's not even quite at the fever pitch that it was at early in the year. So some of the things that I have learned is, one, don't overstaff. So we overstaffed pretty heavily for the growth trajectory that we were on. And unfortunately, we are not on that growth trajectory anymore. And so we've had to make some adjustments. And thankfully, we haven't had to do any layoffs. We've just allowed attrition to kind of take care of those things for us. And so it hadn't been too disruptive from a cultural perspective. Another thing I've learned is the importance of studying the economy. Making sure that you are ahead of what is happening as opposed to things just happening to you, and looking at raw data instead of just what people happen to think, because depending upon who you are and what you are selling, you may have a motive to be a little bit more positive or negative than the actual data would exist. And so I think that's another one. And then third, what I have learned is culture still trumps everything. So one of the decisions that we have made, so in a CEO role, as you know, you're always balancing, I'll use that word, multiple stakeholders. Okay, so in my instance, I am managing how my employees feel, how my clients feel, how my shareholders feel, and how my community feels. And so when you look at a scenario like this where we're going to finish the year very strong, we're going to have our 14th record year in a row, no doubt about it, but the last couple of months have been slower. Then you began to go, okay, how do we react to this? Well, from a shareholder perspective, the answer would be lay everybody off. Let's maximize profitability at all costs. From an employee perspective, it would be lay nobody off, make no changes. Let's continue to live our life, and whatever happens to profits happen. We try to align our budget, our bonus programs and other comp with our performance. So hopefully we're not quite that narrow in our thinking, but certainly, nobody wants anybody to move their cheese. We know that for a fact. The community says, hey, we need you to keep making the same amount of donations and being as involved as you were before. And of course, the customers say, don't adjust our pricing. We need the cheapest at all times. And so the question becomes, how do you kind of balance those? And so for us, it is about prioritizing who are the most important stakeholders there. And for me, employees are number one. They are particularly in a market like this where you have such tight labor, and you're working so hard to attract good people. When you already have them, you better take care of them. So we have chosen to maybe forego some short-term profitability and maybe make some adjustments on our community involvement so that we can keep our employees whole and happy. And so I think as a leader, those need to be conscious decisions that you make, as opposed to, oh my gosh, stuff's just happening to me and I'm making one-off decisions while I'm getting beat about by the waves. It's better to kind of get ahead of those things. And having been through 3 or 4 of these, I think we're doing a better job now than what we did previously. So that would be kind of my synopsis of 2022 and what I have learned and am learning in real time as we speak.
Thanks so much, everybody, for the perspective. It's so great to have the show, have your perspectives from different roles, different parts of the country. And this roundtable is really fun to give our listeners and viewers a taste of those key lessons learned from some different roles, different types of institutions across the country. So hopefully that perspective was valuable to you as you're wrapping up the year. And I know everybody's been working on planning for several months. But that's, kind of hopefully a helpful perspective as you're closing out the year yourself, reflecting on things that were, this was a very dynamic year. And so it was great to have so many guests on the show and offer their perspective throughout the year, and then this wrap up perspective. And please do stay tuned for the next a part 2 in this little mini series where we're going to focus more on the forward looking, with those key trends for 2023. So thanks again, everybody, and happy holidays.